So my name is Simon Anderson. I did all the artwork. I'm the art director for D-Pad Studio, and I also directed Owlboy.
My name is Jeremy Madsen, and I'm a programmer on the team, and I also do the paperwork and the business and the boring stuff.
So Owlboy is essentially a open world exploration game. So you have open dungeons that you can explore, you have free-flying mechanics, but you play as an owl, and this owl Otis doesn't have much power by himself. He's kind of weak, he only has a little spin attack that he can do, it can deflect some things. He gains abilities from his friends. So throughout the game you'll find new partners that you can recruit to your team. We call them gunners, and each gunner has sort of a unique ability that they can add to the team. And so you get to explore Otis' story through both him and his friends and what his place in the world is going to be.
At one point we decided to make the story in Owlboy kind of reflect ourselves, because the development of Owlboy was pretty troubled in the way of taking too long. So what we ended up doing was we added all of these different characters and themes that we wanted to bring up. We made sure that each character had different personality. And the way we did that is, like, parts of the team wrote one character each, usually. So whenever you read anything from Getty, that's usually my part in the writing. Like, none of us were writers at all, so we had no idea how to even write a story. It actually turned into something that resonated with a lot of people and even resonated with us.
Very early on, I decided that the main character was supposed to be an actual mute, that he has a disability. When I explained this to people, they had the reaction of, oh, so he's basically Gordon Freeman or he's Link. This was the focal point. This was what defined Otis's entire character. The fact that he doesn't speak, the fact that he is berated for it or feels uncomfortable about that fact, is also what connects him to everyone in the game. A lot of people are going to think that, this is the sort of, children's cartoon thing where, everyone finds someone that they can hug and that kind of thing. But it was more about a reflection of how things were for us growing up and what our troubles were developing things. So once we found that red line that connected the entirety of the story, suddenly the game became a lot more story focused. We changed a lot of things where instead of characters being optional, we made them mandatory. We could fix a lot of the gameplay issues that we had, because if you have tons of paths, then you end up at a path that's not all that interesting. It was a fully fledged Metroidvania in the sense that a lot of people talk about, you would go through a dungeon, you could take tons of different paths, but at some point we realized that those alternate paths were not that interesting, and there was no motivation to get all those other characters. And then making it linear, I felt like it benefited a lot from that.
I had been programming Owlboy for a long time, and for 5 years before I started asking Simon, so what are these symbols all about in the background that I've been seeing? And he just starts talking about it, and he actually has thought behind it. And I always thought it was just like random scribbles, but so yeah, which is kind of why I started falling in love with the universe as well.
A lot of Owlboy comes from interpreting our own mess. Oftentimes we'll hear something, let's say Jonathan's music for an area, or I'll just sketch out something, let's say a background for a dungeon or something like that, and I'll add a symbol or something of the sort. And then just sit around and look at that and analyze, what does this mean? A lot of the symbolism and the symbols that we use in Owlboy specifically inspired probably the biggest parts of the story.
I was always inspired by the Sonic games, so when I started working on Owlboy, I saw it as my kind of task to bring in a little bit of extra action and make sure that stuff felt really good. One idea that I got was when Otis takes damage, he gets knocked out, which I felt was a needed thing, because when we showed our game off at the IGF, people would complain about it because they could just, you know, ram into enemies and they would pose no threat at all. And then I played Mega Man at Simon's place because I was forced to. I don't like the Mega Man games because I suck at them, but and the reason why is because I would always get hit by something and then fall down in a pit. So I wanted to bring that mechanic into Owlboy, but not as harsh.
I would say that Japanese games more than anything has inspired Owlboy, but it's also because that's what I started playing when I grew up. The two major influences that I wouldn't say that they inspired Owlboy so much as they inspired the thought process. So Kid Icarus, it was a vertical platform game where you can jump out on the side and come back in on the other side, sort of like Pac-Man. The idea of just a vertical world where you can fly around and go through dungeons, that was a very interesting idea to me, but I thought it was very weird that you couldn't fly. So I thought, how about you can go back up and down and you can move around all this area. And so the idea of having a game where you could fly around sort of became interesting. And then we got Super Mario 3, and that had that flying mechanic in the Tanuki suit, but it was more of a glide, so you press the button and you float down. But I thought, how about you reverse that and you press the button and you fly up? And so this idea that you would fly up and reach, you know, floating islands and weird things would happen got me on the path of Owlboy. Zelda and Mega Man are my two biggest inspirations. They have just taught me everything I know about game design. Majora's Mask brought a lot of things in for how to do interpretive story and how to give very vague hints about things and make you fill in the gaps yourself. And then in terms of my artwork, it might be apparent if you think about it a little bit, but the art direction behind Breath of Fire, the fourth one has beautiful artwork, and the sprites in it look crisp and amazing, and the colors in that, and I wanted to at least get Owlboy on that level. Japan has done this stuff now for years where it feels like you can... There was always a limit that they wanted to push with their 2D art, and every single generation has done something different for that. And even though I don't feel like I've reached that level quite yet, I feel like I at least wanted to remind people that there was this kind of push for this for many, many years, and you can bring that back, and you can, if you put enough effort into it, at least, you know, point people in that direction. Owlboy is influenced a lot by Japan. I traveled here a lot before I started. Yeah, I think I was 15 last time I came, and a lot of these things were internalized. So there's a lot of just subtle Japanese themes. You can tell, like, architectural things, and I love the fact that you can have those kinds of influences and kind of push something that I'm not necessarily myself and make it something broader. I don't think there'll be an Owlboy 2. The main reason is right now we need rest, and I think it's better that we jump onto something that feels new and fresh, just for our own sanity's sake. Now, if we have ideas for an Owlboy 2, and I've said this elsewhere, it will not be in a format I think people will recognize, but there's a lot of things on the horizon. We have roughly 20 projects that we've been sitting around discussing whether or not we should do. So can't say anything yet, but believe me, we're going to make a lot of noise once we can announce something. So.